And let's just kick it off here. So welcome everybody. Welcome to our June 11th, if you can believe it, it is June, group coaching session on peer-to-peer fundraising. This is an amazing topic we've been really wanting to get to for a long time now. So I hope that you're as excited as I am, because there is a lot to work from here. I think all of you know me by now, but if you don't, my name is Diana Rosane. I work with the Capacity for Good program, and I am trying to direct you through this nonprofit world and help you to really achieve all that you've ever wanted to do with your nonprofit. So if you have any questions, as always, I will put my email address in the chat box as soon as I'm done here, and you can contact me with any questions you might have. I'll also share how you can join our nonprofit community forum so that you can get your answers to your questions by some of our consultants. I want to just quickly introduce a little bit more about what we're doing here. So we have an amazing partnership from the Canico Agency with the Foundation for Collective Impact to provide these trainings and our community forum. But if you want help with thanking your donors, managing your database, and just kind of making sure that you're reaching out in the right way, definitely contact Canico for some more information on their administrative services. It's a more new service, and I think it's a really great way, especially as we're getting back into season, preparing for all that's to come, to really be in touch and to keep in touch with your donors. I also want to remind you to make sure that you are not only signed up for our Capacity for Good newsletter, which I shared more information about, but also for our Canico newsletter. There is so much information that connects back to Canico and so much information about these free resources. So definitely make sure that you're signed up. You can visit the Canico website. There's tons of information on their blog, and you can get more information about how to actually continue on with these programs. A few quick reminders: you can use the chat role as much as you like, ask your questions, make your comments. Again, we have a great guest today, and I'll be able to make sure I'm keeping track of all your questions and comments in the chat box. I will have tons of resources for you in the Google folder. Thankfully, Brittany and Chris, who you'll meet in just a second, have so many good things for you all. So I will make sure I add those to the resource folder. I will send those out as a follow-up. And then again, if you have any additional questions, you can always access us in the nonprofit community forum and ask those additional questions. This is how to get in touch with us. I think most of you know how to find us, but again, you can find us on YouTube. I'm going to send all of this information as a follow-up to you all after the session. You can join us on our nonprofit community forum. You can find us on our Canico website. Plenty of ways to get involved, stay in touch, and stay connected so that you can get all these resources for you and your organization. All right, I told you I wanted to swing right into this, and I'm actually going to stop sharing because I think that this deserves a really great intro. And on top of it, for those of you who are just joining, I wanted to see some of your names and faces, hopefully, mostly names. I know it always happens that way. And welcome you in. Hi, Tanaka. So I'm really, really excited. We have an incredible opportunity today to be able to hear from experts, I think, in the field of peer-to-peer fundraising. So Brittany is here from Corporate Giving Connection, and she's really going to walk us through some of the overviews of peer-to-peer basics, the campaign essentials, and really how to set up your fundraising team for success. So the Corporate Giving Connection is a full-service development, marketing, and corporate social responsibility consulting firm that focuses on that strategic planning and implementation for your organization and for corporations. So Chris Hammond is actually the CEO and founder. He has 11 plus years of event management and 9 plus years of nonprofit fundraising consulting experience. So I think we're in good hands, I would say. And then, of course, Brittany is here with us today. She is their director of nonprofit development. And after years in the nonprofit sector, she started to build her career in program management and then transition into development. So again, really, really valuable insight in this field, really valuable insight when it comes to actually peer-to-peer fundraising, and the obstacles that come into play when it deals with working with organizations and, of course, the private sector. So lots of experience to be able to be shared here today. And again, I'm so excited to introduce them and to welcome them here and to just kind of kick it off and get started with this amazing new topic. So Brittany, I'm going to leave it to you. I talk a million miles a minute because I get so excited about our topics, but I'm going to let you share your screen, introduce yourself, and just get started. But happy to have you all. And thank you so much again for being here, Brittany. We're so happy to have you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for that amazing introduction. And I am excited to be here. Can everybody see my screen?
I can.
Okay, so we've got the roadmap to a successful peer-to-peer campaign. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. So like Diana mentioned, I am Brittany LaGanke, and I am the Director of Nonprofit Development at Corporate Giving Connection. So we are full service consulting and implementation for nonprofits, anything related to fundraising or marketing. So we kind of do it all. My co-host, Chris Hammond, who's the CEO of CGC, is actually not available to join us today because of an unfortunate flight rescheduling incident. So I'm going to be leading the charge today. So hopefully I'm going to do as good of a job as he would have done, but we're going to go ahead and dive right in now. So just a little bit about what we're going to cover in this presentation. So we're going to talk about peer-to-peer basics. So if you've never done a peer-to-peer campaign before, if this is your first one, we're going to kind of show you exactly what's going on there. And then all of the different essentials that you need in order to execute a successful campaign, how to set up your fundraisers for success and keep them motivated throughout the entire process. So we'll go ahead and dive right in with the peer-to-peer basics. So if you've never done a peer-to-peer campaign before, you may not have executed one, but you've probably encountered one at some point in your life. So typically people have used peer-to-peer in the past for things, athletic events like runs, walks, marathons, cycling events, things like that. So you may have seen something like this before. Maybe you've received an email or you've seen on social media a friend or a family member, coworker, maybe post something asking for donations to their fundraising page. So that's peer-to-peer. So it allows individuals to raise money on behalf of the organization. So typically what happens is they'll set up their own personal fundraising page as part of a larger campaign, and then they'll send that fundraising page link out to their network and ask for donations. And that all ultimately goes back to the organization. So it's a great way to increase your network. If you don't have a huge network of individual donors, but you've got a few really dedicated people, this is a great way to bring more individual donors into your network. And it can also be used for all kinds of different things. It doesn't just have to be athletic events. We've seen it be really successful for end of year giving campaigns, annual appeals, and even in events. So fundraising for galas and things like that, we've seen people use peer-to-peer. So today we're going to focus a little bit more on the online methods, but this can be applicable to both. So if you've got an athletic event coming up and you want to use peer-to-peer, we're going to give you some great tips for that today too. So just a little note about crowdfunding versus peer-to-peer. So these are kind of similar fundraising tactics, but they do differ a little bit. So crowdfunding is kind of that traditional method where you've got one main campaign landing page, you're sending everybody to that place and they're all making their donations in that one spot. So this is great for organizations who have that large individual donor list already in place. So because it really relies on your ability to spread the word. And it's also great, we think, for shorter campaigns, one-day campaigns, like if a lot of organizations will set up a page specifically for Giving Tuesday, and they'll just send everybody to the same page. So that's crowdfunding. Peer-to-peer, again, is a little different in the sense that each person's going to create their own personal fundraising page and ask for donations there, and then it ultimately all funnels into that big pot. But you're getting credit for the donations that you bring in as a fundraiser. So again, this is great for organizations who don't necessarily have that large list of individual donors in place. If you're trying to get an individual donor program started, maybe you want to ultimately convert these people into monthly donors or something like that. This is a great way to get people into the pipeline and get those contacts. But it does require a little bit more time to execute, just because unlike the one-day campaign, you're relying on these people, these fundraisers, to send out messaging on your behalf. So you have to give them the time to be able to get that message out and wait for people to respond to them as well. So that's kind of the difference between those two. And hopefully everybody on this call likes GIFs. We got a lot of GIFs in this presentation. We like to keep things lively. So be ready for that. So why organizations love peer-to-peer? So there's a lot of different reasons. Again, you're receiving introductions to all new donors that you would have not ever been able to have contact with before. So your ambassadors, your fundraisers are amplifying your message for you. And these are people who probably already have a stake in the organization. Maybe they've been involved in programs, maybe they're board members or they've been volunteers. So they already care about your organization. They're looking for a way to help. Being a peer-to-peer fundraiser is a great way for them to do that. And it also allows them to put that personal touch on things. So I think a lot of us have in the past at our nonprofits have sent out those big email blasts asking for donations to different campaigns. But imagine if those emails were coming from your friend or your family member, it's going to have that more personal touch. You're probably going to pay a little bit more attention to that. So it's great to allow people to put that personal touch on it. And then I wanted to share a quick story from one of our clients. So it was a couple years ago, they had never done an end of year campaign before. So they wanted to start up this end of year campaign, and they didn't really have a big list of individual donors, but they wanted to raise money online. So what they did is they had each of their board members set up a peer-to-peer fundraising page. So all of their board members had their own page with their photo. They all wrote their own reasons for getting involved in the organization, why it meant so much to them. And then they sent that link out to their friends, colleagues, and family members. And it kind of created a nice little sense of competition between the board members as well. So that was really great. That campaign, actually, they were able to raise about $20,000 on a first year end of year campaign. So that was really big for them. So fundraisers love peer-to-peer as well. And here's why. So the first thing is, of course, they can set goals for themselves. It feels good to, be able to set your own goal and then hit that goal, hopefully, and have something to work towards. It gives them a lot of opportunity for flexibility. So this can be as little or as much effort as they want to put in. So a little bit later in the presentation, we're going to talk about the different tools that we like to give our fundraisers. But as long as you're providing them with adequate tools, it should be something where they can put a lot of effort in if they want to. They can really personalize everything, or they can just kind of copy and paste a lot of these templates. So it really does not take a lot of their time. Something that we say to fundraisers while we're recruiting oftentimes is, as long as you're using the templates that we've provided, this should take you, 15, 20 minutes a week to execute a peer-to-peer campaign like this. So, but that of course relies on your organization providing all those templates, which we'll talk about shortly. My favorite kinds of fundraisers are the ones who put that personal touch on there. So include photos, include quotes or testimonials, reasons why they're involved. But it's just fun, and it can be competitive for them as well. I think actually we don't have the polls worked in, so we're going to skip that. So campaign essentials. So these are all the things that you're going to need to have in place to execute a successful peer-to-peer campaign. So the first thing I want to talk about is diversifying your campaign. So you're going to want to have a lot of different touch points so that people see your campaign. There we go. So that people see your campaign in a lot of different ways, because as we all know, attention spans are super low now. If I just get an email and read through, I might just kind of swipe that away and forget about it. But if I get multiple emails, or if I'm seeing an email and I read it and I think, oh, I'm going to come back to that, and then I'm on social media and I see the same content from the same organization, that might be just the reminder that I need to go ahead and take that action and make that donation. So you want to have a lot of different touch points, but you want them to all have one united message. Some people even will have different event activations. So maybe you have happy hours, or, some little get-togethers. A lot of times restaurants will do those profit sharing nights. So we've seen things like that just be nice little ways to get people in person together and get them excited around these campaigns. In terms of email, so you really want to think ahead of time. What kind of emails are you sending out? You want to make sure to draft all of them ahead of time, because again, we want everything that we're sending out to have one united message and tell one story. This should be a narrative with a beginning, a middle, and an end throughout your campaign. So make sure that all of those emails are working together, telling one story. And same thing with social media. You want your social media to really complement the emails and the things that you're sending out. A lot of us wish that we could, make these posts on social media, and that's going to make people go to our page and have an influx of donations. But a lot of times what we see with our clients is they're really donating through those links on email, and social media is really serving as that reminder for them. And then, of course, this is also a great opportunity if you're lucky enough to have a match, maybe a board member or a company who says that they're going to match all donations on a specific day or something like that for your campaign. That's a great opportunity to give them a little bit of credit through email or social media activations. And then the last thing I wanted to talk about here is direct mail. So I feel like a lot of days now, people feel like direct mail is dead and that nobody's really using that anymore. Nobody's fundraising with that. But we've seen even in the past couple of years, a lot of our clients have been really successful using that snail mail, using the direct mail letters. So we do not think that direct mail is dead, but we do think that you need to be considerate and think things through from a strategy standpoint before you launch into that. So things like, who's going to receive these? It might not be cost effective for your organization to just send that mailing out to everybody that you have in your database, but maybe you comb through and say, okay, maybe we just want to target older donors. Do we want to target that way? Or maybe we just want to target people who have given, say, more than $500 or, in the past year, those kind of higher level donors. Maybe those ones are more the people that are primed to receive a direct mail letter. We actually had, I'll give one more anecdote from a client in the past who they do a fall appeal every year. So they send out these letters, and what they do is they have each of their board members create a short list of their close personal contacts, and they allow these board members to write personal notes along with these direct mail letters. So you're getting this letter from the organization, but then there's a personal note. Some people were doing note cards, some people were just writing, handwriting directly on the letters. Some people were including a little post-it note or something, but just a way of saying, hey, this is coming from me. This, I'm the reason that you're getting this mailing right now. It's not just some, random thing from some random nonprofit, but it really, again, gives that personal touch. So just those different ways of activating can all work together. One thing I would note is when you're scheduling all these things out, because I think a lot of organizations forget to do this, once somebody has made that donation, make sure to remove them from your email list. So if somebody has already taken that action, you don't want them to continue to get emails asking them to donate, because they're going to feel like they weren't, their initial donation was not acknowledged, or you didn't notice that. So just be mindful of mailing lists and updating those continuously as you go. Essential peer-to-peer content. So we're going to talk a little bit about creating a great campaign theme, but you want something catchy. It's also going to take lots of content. So images, stories, testimonials, videos, if you have them. I do not think that organizations necessarily need to have super professionally created videos and images. I think sometimes kind of that lower production quality can even make it feel more personal. So you don't need to have a huge budget and create, these professionally made videos and things in order to have compelling content. We really believe that. But you do want your images to stand out, be eye-catching, be visually appealing. You want your videos to be short, especially if you're going to be posting them on social media. Again, attention spans are super low, so keep those things, under 2 minutes. But even more than that, hopefully maybe 30 seconds, something. Think about yourself. How long would you sit and watch a video on your phone? You can't expect other people to watch something longer than you would. So that, and then also make sure to start gathering content early. So if you're relying on your programs team to gather all that content, give them plenty of notice, because it takes actually longer than you'd think it would to gather all of those stories and testimonials and things like that to be able to fill out a campaign. So we have some examples here of some great images that we've seen from some of our organizations that we work with. So the first one, it's a nice eye-catching image with that nice statistic on there. This other one is more of the success story testimonial model, but you still got that great imagery. And then they wanted us to know this one specific fact, so they've highlighted that on the page. It's really just all about making it visually appealing and thinking about, where do you want people's eye to be drawn to on the page? What action do you want them to take? I also would say, try out different methods, see what works for your for your community. Maybe they interact more with certain types of content than others. Maybe people are reposting and commenting and liking, more of the numbers and the statistics. Maybe that's what your community likes, or maybe they're more into the images and the videos. So try different things out and see how they play, see what people interact with. So in terms of creating a campaign theme, the biggest thing is you want to make it related to your organization, your mission and program. So don't just pick, okay, this holiday is coming up, we're going to do a campaign for Valentine's Day, if that has nothing to do with your organization. You want to make sure to keep it personal, keep it related to your unique mission. That'll make it easy to connect with for people who are fundraising for you. Something that we like to suggest to our clients is focus on one specific initiative. So maybe don't just have, your campaign focusing on all the different work that your nonprofit does. Because while that's great, that can be difficult for people who really are just going to read one email to wrap their minds around. So what we like to say is focus on one specific initiative. Is there something that people can get their minds around really quickly that's clear, but also measurable? Because you want people to understand exactly what your goal is and exactly where their money's going. We also encourage people to do different levels of giving. So let's say maybe for an example, your organization needs to raise $10,000 to refurbish a gym, and you're gonna model your peer-to-peer fundraising campaign around that. So you might want to have different levels of donations set up that correspond with different outcomes, and be really specific about them. So maybe you say $25 will provide new balls or new equipment for the gym, and then maybe $1,000 will provide new uniforms. Give people something specific and tangible that it's very easy for them to imagine where their money is going and exactly the impact that they're making. So in terms of creating a campaign goal, so your overall fundraising goal for your campaign, this is something that people tend to struggle with. And the biggest things, there's obviously no one size fits all, but it really comes down to, you want it to be something that's a kind of a reach goal that's people are going to have to work to achieve. But you also want it to be realistic. You want it to be attainable for your organization. If this is your first ever peer-to-peer campaign, maybe $1 million isn't going to be the appropriate goal for you, unless you're a huge national organization with millions of individual donors that are already in your pipeline. That might not be realistic for your campaign. And you want to be able to celebrate at the end of the campaign. You want to celebrate, that you've achieved your goal and that it's a job well done. And so here we have some different questions that we like to go through with nonprofits while they're creating their goals. So again, if you've done a peer-to-peer campaign before, if you have, how much did that one raise? If you've only ever raised 20 grand on a peer-to-peer campaign, it's probably not realistic that you're gonna all of a sudden do 200 grand on your next one. If you've ever done any kind of end of year campaign using crowdfunding, anything involving individual donors, what is the impact that you'd like to make from this campaign? So again, bringing it back to what is your specific goal? You want to really, really narrow down on that. And then how many fundraisers would you need? So what does your average gift amount look like? If you have that data that you can pull up, if your average gift amount is $100, how many donations would you need for this campaign to hit the goal that you're talking about? Or if the average, how much money does the average fundraiser have to raise for you to hit your goal? How many fundraisers do you think you can attract? And how much would they each have to raise? Does that sound realistic? And then just, do you feel confident that you'll exceed the goal? Because again, you want to be able to celebrate with people at the end of this campaign. Also, do you see donations coming in that are going to be attributed to the campaign, but aren't necessarily from your fundraisers? So are you relying all on your fundraisers for this? Or are you also going to have maybe corporate donations or board matches or things like that that are going to be attributed to this? So now we're going to talk a little bit about setting up fundraisers for success. So these are the things that we like to do when we're preparing for a campaign. So first of all, where to find these fundraisers. So we've been talking a lot about these fundraisers and what they need to do and what they don't need to do, but where do you even find these mythical fundraisers, So these are some of the areas that we think you should consider when you're looking for these people who are going to be your ambassadors for this campaign. So people that are already involved, maybe if you have a natural tie-in of people who have benefited from your organization's programs or have been recipients of grants or funding or something like that, they might be primed and they might want to do something to give back. So they might be great ambassadors. People who are already recurring individual donors or people who have shown consistency with donating in the past. Super committed volunteers, committee members, people who have shown a track record of accountability in the past. I think a lot of people just kind of want to blast that message, everybody become a fundraiser, sign up, sign up. But then there's not really a lot of accountability. They're not providing them with the follow through and the tools. They're not being considerate. This is really about it's about quantity, but it's more so about quality. It doesn't matter how many fundraisers you have signed up if nobody's fundraising. So you want to make sure that these people are actually going to do what they say that they're going to do. So dependable volunteers that have an active network. And we see a lot of organizations will use peer-to-peer specifically for young professionals and young people, even people in high school, because while they might not have the ability to write you a $5,000 check themselves, they have friends, they've got family members, they've got colleagues, they can ask them to make donations. And even if they're all making $20, $50 donations, that adds up. So it's really important to think about those things as well. Again, board members are a great asset during campaigns like this. And of course, we all know not all board members are created equal. Some of them are kind of all talk and no action. But for the ones who are really dedicated to making a difference and to giving back, this is something great that they can do. We've seen a lot of organizations offer the peer-to-peer fundraising as part of their give or get. So if you have, a give or get requirement for your board members, you could offer the opportunity for anything that they raise through your peer-to-peer campaign to be attributed towards their total for that. And then of course, just anyone else who's invested in your organization or who has expressed interest in getting involved. So one of the nonprofits I worked at, I was kind of the person who would respond to those random Q&As from the info email. So I would get email constantly of people just saying, I love the organization, I'd love to help out, let me know if there's any opportunities. And we didn't always have things, coming up, events coming up or things like that. So sometimes you don't know what to tell these people. If you keep them on a list and say, yeah, we'll reach out to you when we have something, maybe this is something that they would consider. So just be a little bit creative with where you're looking for these people. So, and then again, the most important thing, developing expectations. So you can't just say, I'm going to get, 100 people signed up and they're all just automatically going to know how to fundraise and they're all going to know, how to reach out to people. Not everybody is comfortable asking for money. And that's just something that is an unfortunate truth for nonprofits. So you really want to develop those expectations early. Let them know what they're going to be expected to do and what this time commitment is going to look like. So we like to encourage everybody to just have a quick conversation. It doesn't need to be anything super in depth, but just make sure to set those expectations. So are you open to asking people, for donations through email, through social media? How much are you comfortable raising? This is the amount of time that we're working with. Do you think that you could send out, this number of communications in that time? What's an amount that you're comfortable committing to that you feel like you could raise? And then of course, we always want to make sure to provide people with all kinds of templates for email, social media. Are you willing to post content from the organization? Are you comfortable? Maybe you're only comfortable when you're creating your own content. And then we've seen people, again, the best fundraisers are the ones that put that personal touch on it, that put those photos, those testimonials, those stories. Are they willing to make it personal? Or are they more just looking to copy and paste? Because that's fine too. And then, of course, do you have any individuals in your network or companies? Does your company have a matching program? That's something we always like to be sure to ask because that's money on the table if you don't ask those kinds of things. So keeping people motivated. So a big thing that we do is when we're prepping for a peer-to-peer campaign, the very first thing we do is we want to create, with all this different content, we're immediately working on creating our templates. So just like you're going to draft all those emails for the organization to send out, you're going to want to do the same thing on behalf of your fundraisers. Again, we don't want them to have to do the heavy lifting here or recreate the wheel. We want them to be able to just really plug and play here. So this is an example of an email template. What we usually like to do is create a fundraising kit. So we'll share this fundraising kit with them at the beginning of the campaign, and it'll have a couple different email templates. So it'll have one that's an introduction. It'll have one or two that are follow-ups for people who were interested or didn't respond or didn't make a donation yet, but you think might still be interested, a couple of follow-up templates for that, and then one kind of final push template. So we want to give them those different email templates. And of course, they can personalize them, they can add to them, they can do all those things. But if they just want to copy and paste and fill in the blank, fill in the recipient name, fill in their name, they can do that too. So it's really up to them what they want to do with that. In this kit, we also include several different social media images, and we'll show some examples of those shortly. And then also just in different instructions, how to set up your fundraising account, best practices, tips and tricks, those kinds of things. So if you can create a really good kit ahead of time and just hand that over to them, that'll make their job 10 times easier. And then of course, you're just there supporting them the whole way through. Here's some examples of some social media templates that organizations have used in the past. And one thing I would add about that is make sure you're not just giving them images, but give them sample captions too, because while they may love your organization and they may be heavily involved, not everybody necessarily knows the precise language that your organization might use to talk about your programs, talk about your mission. So make sure to give them that language. Again, you don't want them having to recreate the wheel all the time. So give them a few different sample captions. So if they just want to copy and paste, they can do that. If they want to edit, they can do that. So keeping them motivated throughout the campaign. So this is really the most important thing, because ultimately your fundraisers are the ones that are bringing the majority of the dollars in the door for your organization during this campaign. So keeping them motivated is pivotal. So obviously starting out with giving them a great kit, a fundraising kit with all those different templates that we talked about, giving them shout outs and recognition throughout the campaign. So maybe you send an email, with rankings if you're creating more of that competition, or maybe you're just sending emails with shout outs. Hey, I saw so-and-so got $1,000 donation this week. Awesome job. You could also use social media for recognition as well. If people follow your organization there, give those people shout outs because they're working wonders for you. So they need that recognition. We've had organizations that will do phone calls from staff or from board members or volunteers throughout the campaign just to make people feel appreciated and keep them motivated. One of our organizations did at the end of each board meeting, they set aside 15 minutes and they gave each of their board members a list of a few calls to make, volunteers or fundraisers, just to say thank you. And it's something that feels good for them to do. So you could just be creative with that. Maybe you have your program participants or the beneficiaries of your programs write little notes or letters or things like that. Some of our organizations will do things during campaign, like if they'll send out an email every Friday updating people on the status of the campaign, where they're at with their goal, and they'll include little what they call mission moments. So if there's something really touching that happened, with your organization, with your programs over the last week or since the last email you sent, include that and just say, by the way, thank you so much for the work that you're doing. In case you need a little more encouragement, we got this amazing quote or this amazing testimonial from our recent event or a recent project. And just share that with them because there's a reason that they're involved and they want to be reminded of that throughout this campaign. And then of course, just providing coaching, providing guidance, making sure that you have an open door. So if they have questions about setting up their page, or if they're looking for an email draft, maybe they want to send something specific to their colleagues, or they've gotten the opportunity to send something out to the listserv for their department at their company. Keep your door open. Say, hey, if you need drafts, if you need templates for things, we want to make sure that you have every single thing that you need to be successful. We're here to support you on that. And then we just wanted to share a couple of case studies from recent peer-to-peer clients. These are both over the last year. So we had an organization who last year, of course, I'm sure many of us had to cancel in-person fundraising events that we do every year. So this organization had to do just that. They actually had to cancel this volunteer event that they do every year honoring 9/11. So they wanted to pivot to that online fundraising model. So we helped them out with peer-to-peer. And what they did is all of those volunteers, all those people who would normally attend their event, and I think they made a small donation and attended the event, all of those people, instead of just their donation, they were now becoming fundraisers, asking other people for donations. So they were multiplying their impact. There was one woman who was a chair of the event, and they actually told her, I think she wrote, maybe it was a $5,000 or $10,000 check every year for this event. They said, instead of doing that, would you mind just creating a fundraising page and send out a few emails to people in your network? And I think she raised like 15 grand. So she raised more money than those checks that she used to write in past years. So again, just being creative with this and really being open to people's networks. This was another organization. They had never done peer-to-peer before, but they had, it was their young professionals council. So they wanted to figure out how to engage these people and to kind of make them into their big donors of the future. So these people weren't at the point in their careers and at their lives where they were going to be able to write those huge checks, but they were people who were working and who had friends and networks. And so they had a lot of fundraisers, and each of them raised, what we would consider to be low amounts, but add them all together. And they raised a lot on that first campaign, almost 30 grand. So that's another example of just many hands make light work. So never discount what people can do and who's in their network. All right, so just a quick review, and then we'll go into some questions if anybody has any. So common peer-to-peer mistakes, and this is just kind of a wrap up from everything that we've talked about, that lack of adequate planning. So people think, yeah, we just have to create the page and design the landing page, and then people will take it from there. They'll just use the templates that are already preloaded in. And then we'll just send a few emails here and there directing people to the site. But you really, again, it's all about creating that narrative, creating that story, that overarching cohesion for your organization. So make sure to plan that out ahead of time. Some people will just let their fundraisers create whatever they want and post whatever they want, which is fine if people want to create their own stuff. But again, you're making them do more work than they need to do, or probably want to do, a lot of them. And you're not having that unified message, that branding across all those platforms. So your emails, your social media, what your fundraisers are saying should all complement each other. Obviously, everybody's using their own voice, but you want people to be speaking about the organization in the appropriate way. Not providing those tools. So we talked about the fundraising kit and what should be included in that. Make sure you're giving people tools, because really it should only be something like we said, that takes 15, 20 minutes a week. Just copy and paste. And they can do more if they want on top of that. And then that lack of communication with fundraisers. So not setting expectations, not giving them those tools, not staying in consistent contact with them. And I would add, don't just stay in consistent contact with them during the campaign, but all year. Please don't be the organization that every time someone hears from you, you're coming to them with your hand out, asking them for money. Keep them engaged throughout the year. Look for ways that they can be involved. Send them updates, put them on your newsletter list, keep them engaged. And then by the time the next campaign rolls around, they'll be like, wow, I really feel like my money, or the effort that I put in to get donations for this organization, I could see where it went. I know exactly what they did with that. That feels good.